Hey guys, Miss Bailey here. I want to welcome you back to the Even If Ministry, and that is actually what we're going to talk about today, the name Even If and where it comes from. And if you're not familiar, that story comes from Daniel chapter 3. It is probably my favorite biblical story ever. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of the story and then explain kind of what it means to my ministry. So there in Daniel chapter 3, King Nebuchadnezzar is putting up a ginormous golden statue, as all kings do. And he wants everyone in the town to bow down to the statue when the music's played. So he puts up this ginormous statue and he starts playing the music, and everyone is there bowing down to it, except for 3 people. And their names are Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That is how I pronounce them, at least. And people are looking around and they see that these 3 guys aren't bowing down to the statue. These 3 men are Jewish, and it would go against their religion to bow down to any graven image. So these people are looking around and they report it to the king, and they're like, hey, there were people there and they weren't bowing down to the statue. And the king is furious, and he's like, bring these guys to me. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they are brought to King Nebuchadnezzar, and King Nebuchadnezzar is like, hey guys, I heard some nasty rumors that you weren't bowing down to my statue, and I want to know what that's all about. I will give you a second chance, though. If you weren't bowing down the first time, we'll play the music again, and you can bow down to my statue. But if you do not bow down to the statue, then you will be thrown into a fiery furnace, because he's the king, and apparently he has the power to do what he wants with his people. And so Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they look at King Nebuchadnezzar, and they say, you know what, sir? We are not going to bow down to your statues. We serve a God, a mighty God, and this God has the power to deliver us from the fiery furnace. But even if he does not, then we're not going to bow down to your statue. And so the king, after this, he is obviously just incredibly furious, and he instructs his guards to turn up the furnace to 7 times hotter than it normally is. So the guards go turn it up, and they go to put Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in this furnace. And it is so hot that all of the soldiers, as they're putting Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in, they die because it is that hot. And they put them all in there, and they're looking. There's 3 of them that get put in there, and they're looking, and they're like, did we not put 3 soldiers in there? And the king's like, yeah, we put 3 Jewish men in there. And they're looking, and there are 4 people walking around. And in verse 25, it says that this 4th person is like a god. A lot of people think it is the Lord's angel. We're not for sure, but there were 4 people walking around in the fire. And so the king instructs the guards to bring out Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they come out without a scratch on their body. Their hair's not burned, their clothes aren't burned, nothing on them is burned, they don't even smell like smoke. And the king is just so surprised that God could rescue his people, even though Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego knew full well that God could save them. And this is an incredible story of God's power, of his might, of his ability to rescue his people. But the part that really sticks out to me is their mindset going into this. And that's what I want to really talk about. That's where this whole idea comes from of even if, because they knew that God could save them, but they said, even if he doesn't, we will serve him anyways. And that is not something that I employ enough in my life. A lot of times I will bargain with God and say, well, I promise I'll pray more if you just help me pass this test. I promise I'll never ask you for anything again if you just help me to get this dream car that I've always wanted. And I will bargain with God instead of trusting him through the entire process like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did. I am notorious for doing that kind of thing. Instead of saying, even if, I say, if you'll help me get through this, if you'll help me graduate valedictorian, if you'll help me get into college, if you'll help me land this job, then we'll be good, God. Then I'll trust you. Then I'll put my faith in you. When the whole time I should be saying, even if I graduate at the bottom of my class, I'll praise you anyway. Even if I don't get into my dream school, I'll praise you anyway. Even if this job isn't the one for me, I'll praise you anyway. And with this ministry, I want to equip everyone to have that mindset. Because Christianity is not about living the easiest, most perfect life in the entire world. Christianity is hard and life isn't fair. A lot of times things don't work out the way that we expected them to, or the way that we think that they will. A lot of times what I want in this life is not what I get in this life. And that can cause you to be upset and to be mad at God even if things don't work out your way. But if you have this even if mindset, even if things don't work out in this life, even if I don't get this scholarship, even if I don't get the promotion that I've been wanting, God will get me through it anyways. And I know that God is in control, but having that even if mentality really will allow you to put your life into His hands. And it will allow you to trust Him, trust His timing, trust His plan. And we have to realize that this is God's world. We're just living in it. And that sounds cliche and cheesy, but that's really what I am trying to do with this ministry, is to equip you with all the tools to deal with those times of even if. When you are dealing with a change, or when you are dealing with, something that is unexpected or unplanned, then you have the tools to turn to God instead of turning away from God. We should all be able to trust in God the way that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did. And that's what I'm living for each day. I'm living for, you know what, God, I trust you wholly, fully, completely. But even if I don't get what I want, you are my God. And you are powerful, and you are amazing, and you are magnificent. And I will praise you anyways. I hope that through this ministry, I can equip you to have that same mindset.
Me the strength to be able to sing.